take projection.
Welcome everybody to Take It On Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing today, man?
I am good. How are you today, sir?
Pretty good, pretty good. Uh, Kind of a interesting weekend of football in
That
both
is,
the
it has
college and
been.
pro ranks. A lot of blowouts yesterday, which I guess we'll start with that. Uh, in Lexington, Alabama took it to the Wildcats. Hot start. Um, Defense, special teams, offense, just everybody hot start. A little injury
Yeah.
scare early on with Jalen Milroe, but he definitely powered through it for what did he end up with? 7 total touchdowns. Uh, four through the air, another 3 on the ground, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I
Uh,
lost connection for a second there. But yeah, I mean, man, it was a, a beautiful game. I guess you would say the most complete game we've had, to this point in the season there. Milrow got after from the get-go. And I was kind of surprised just how quickly we came out. We've kind of had a history after the LSU games of the next game kind of being ho hum, kind of
mhm.
sluggish, and I didn't see that at all on Saturday. I mean, we got after it from the get go, scored on that first drive, and just kept it going. The energy was super high. So that's really good to see. After a big win like that, just to keep it going there, and you know, that they did. They stayed away from any of the overhype and the rat poison, as Nick Saban would say. So it was a good, solid overall, great win for the team there on the road there. So,
Yeah, I think Herb Street on game day said that he expected it to be an angry Nick Saban day, and
yeah,
I
he did
don't
say
think they
that.
cut the coach much, but yeah, you could definitely tell he wasn't after that LSU win. He didn't want any talk of Georgia or Auburn or
Nope.
playoff or anybody but Kentucky. And
Yeah.
it definitely, the performance looked like that was the message that he preached during the week and the players bought into.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually 6 total touchdowns for Milroe, 3 and 3. Got Jam Miller got the last one. But
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
complete day. A couple, mistakes, always coachable moments. Milroe threw a
Right.
pick. Uh, Kool-Aid just continues his weird struggles this year. And
Yeah, it's weird with the punts.
but
I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe
it's
it's just
just
time to move on to somebody else. I don't know. I know we
yeah
definitely
for a
have a
guy
lot of
who
people that could do it.
yeah, a
Uh,
guy who literally I think led the country last year in return
yeah, he
average.
did.
This year,
He
just
almost averaged, I think, like over 17 yards of return, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah.
somewhere around there. Yeah. So I don't know what's been going on this year. He just seems very apprehensive
Hmm.
with any time. Like he just quick to just get away from it. But yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but didn't harm us in the end. Like you said, it was
right.
great to see just them complete game. Um, great pick by Terry and Arnold at one point.
Oh, yeah, that
Just
was
jumped
beautiful.
all over a route. Um, yeah, I mean, not much to say about it. They clinched the West, um, so they will officially go to um, the SEC title game in Atlanta to face Georgia, who officially clinched the East, and or maybe they had already clinched it. I'm not sure, but
Okay, well, I know that they clinched it. I think after Tennessee had lost, had officially clinched it.
yeah, Georgia just once again just destroying any hope of a good game. Ole Miss started hot, and then just Georgia just outlasted them, and then just leaned on them,
Yeah,
and ugly final score there
super.
in Athens. Yeah, and so now we're set for another Alabama Georgia showdown in Atlanta. Um, just since Kirby's taken over there now. What that's the let's see, one, two, three. This will be the
Oh, what?
fifth
Fifth,
postseason meeting.
sixth?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, Georgia stays in that SEC championship game. It seems like.
yeah, it's definitely interesting to I mean, not that it'll change much on Georgia's, but going divisionless will at least give them a little more. You know, they won't play, and that's just how it always been. You know, with the East and West split, one's up, one's down. Um, there were plenty of years. You know, in the '90s, it was Florida, Tennessee,
Yeah,
Georgia to a little degree
right.
later in the '90s, and the 2000s that
Florida
were battling
State,
for it.
that was the weak one.
Yeah, and then it kind of flipped, and it was your Alabama, LSU, Auburn in the
Yeah.
West. Um, but yeah, so I mean, we'll get to that in a few weeks, of course. Not looking ahead, but another one. We'll see. It'll probably be Georgia's first real test. We think, they do have Tennessee next weekend
Whew.
in Knoxville, but
Yeah, that may make a little difference, but man, the Tennessee team I saw yesterday.
no, yeah. Yesterday Tennessee went to Columbia, Missouri,
Wow.
and got embarrassed by the Tigers. 36-7, just complete dominance. Schrader ran for over 200 yards on them. The Missouri defense just absolutely shut down uh, anything the Vols tried to do.
Anything.
Yeah. Uh, like I said, yesterday was just a day of blowouts. There's a couple close games, um, but a lot of just anything you turned on. At one point, I personally was on the road during the afternoon and stuff. I didn't get to sit down and watch too many games, but anytime I tried to find one on the radio or something, it was just when we did get in front of a TV, it was just uh, nothing to write home about. But yeah, so just uh, ugly day. Elsewhere in the SEC, we should mention Jaden Daniels. I mean, give the man the Heisman. I don't. I mean, Michael Penix will finish on the better team, but Jaden Daniels literally did something nobody's ever done before. Threw for 350, ran for over 200 in the same game.
606 total yards.
It,
Yes,
just ridiculous. One player, 606 total yards. I mean, you hear it a lot. It's kind of overused now. An announcer during the game, these are video game numbers, folks. Well, literally, that's what you would do if you're playing NCAA back in the day when you either Road to Glory, your creative player, whatever.
that's
You
some.
just have the same guy and you just cheesing him, just play
Yeah,
after play.
he's
Um,
literally doing this in real life against real defenses. Division
yeah,
One. I mean,
just
respect to the team.
um,
Florida is not the greatest defense, but but still, that was crazy to watch. Like,
yeah, still an SEC defense at that, and like you said,
yeah,
a team rebuilding and stuff, but you shouldn't be able to make it look as easy as he does.
he was
Um,
playing. He was playing with them out there. Like it was crazy.
yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It was I just found myself last night, fixated on that game, just watching him, just couldn't turn it. It's like why bother with something else when I can just watch his performance.
Right. That was epic.
Yeah, and thankful for Jalen Milrow and the Alabama defense making the one play to separate
Yeah,
themselves and
yeah,
beat
because
that man last week.
yeah,
I'm thankful to Florida
I mean,
State and Ole Miss for beating LSU, so there's no chance we have to see him anytime again this year.
right. But that's crazy to think though that that man, coming into the week, who knew if he was going to play or not? you
Yeah,
know,
with the concussion protocol, a lot of people before when they announced he would play, a lot of people were skeptical. Like what are we doing here? But he looked fine to me.
did he? And and big, that's big for him too. I mean, he really, easily, he's come out the protocol. I mean, technically not playing for anything other than pride in himself. He could have easily said, "I'm not going to play this week. Why risk it? The draft's coming up." He
Hmm.
went out there and just, took it to a different level. So
Yeah,
I mean,
like I said, it was just unreal watching it. You just kind of were fixated.
you
Um,
have to like there's a bunch of scouts and a bunch of GMs just like not sure what to do anymore because I mean he's definitely someone you got to take into consideration for sure. Um, I mean, considering I honestly I might take him if I were a GM. I think I would take him over Drake May.
mhm.
That's just
I mean, yeah, it's worth a look. I mean, he doesn't have that prototypical NFL frame, but
right.
I think the NFL's finally, in the past few seasons, leaning into like, all right, maybe we need to. If this is the way that the top quarterbacks are going to be now, then
Yeah.
we need to lean in on them. You're not going to get your big guys like Peyton Manning. They're not. I mean, Peyton
Less
Manning's one of one anyway, but his talent. But I just
than
mean that prototype, the big
6'4",
pocket
6'5",
passer.
30 guy just stands in the pocket. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just less and less. Yeah, just less and less of a thing you see these days. Just because the game just changed a lot. But
Hmm. But yeah, elsewhere in the SEC, I mentioned it was a week of blowouts. South Carolina beat the hell out of Vandy. Good for them.
yeah,
Auburn beat the hell out of Arkansas in
hmm,
Fayetteville. A little surprising me that Auburn scored that many points.
yeah,
And then
that's just,
Arkansas, a week after winning their first ever game in the swamp, turned around, just lays an egg.
yeah. What is going like? I'm you know I'm honestly after the way that they got slaughtered there yesterday. I'm shocked that Sam Pittman wasn't fired today. Honestly,
Mm-hmm. Which is a good transition into Texas A&M beating the hell out of Mississippi State yesterday. It was kind of ho-hum. You looked at it, you're like, all right, whatever. Mississippi
yeah.
State's offense has been really struggling lately. A&M was connecting. And then you wake up to the news this morning reports that A&M is going to fire Jimbo Fisher, and they did. Uh, Finally, he pulled the trigger. Um, I believe the AD has come out and said it's because they were just stuck in neutral, which you can't argue against it. Yep, it's still a $75 million buyout, but obviously A&M, their
Buyout.
boosters can afford it. Um, and yeah, you don't pay as much money and guaranteed to a guy like Jimbo Fisher for 4 lost seasons
Yeah,
uh,
not what
consistently.
not what you brought him in to do.
No, yeah, and it's not like the first couple were 4 loss because he's rebuilding, or like well we lost a lot of players last year from a great class, and this is a retooling year or whatever. It's just every year just disappointing, disappointing, disappointing.
I mean,
I
he
think
didn't even make a SEC championship game. I
mm-mm.
mean,
The
no,
best year had, I guess, was that
oh,
2020, the COVID year, where after they lost one or two early in the year, they were
but we were the only lost that year, but I mean, we beat 59-0.
yeah, we
We,
beat the hell out of them. Then they turned it around, and they were being mentioned as a possible like playoff team late in the
we ended
year
up
if things
5.
broke right.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up number 5. It came down to them and Notre Dame that year, I believe.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, and it's interesting to see where A&M goes from here. Interesting timing. Of course, you figure they're just trying to get ahead of anybody else that might let a coach go. Hop into that market. We'll see who the new hot guy is. Whose name's going to pop up.
I mean, I would think. I mean, the hot name, of course, is the guy who has a connection there, Mike Elko. Of course, a Duke. I know that's a name that's been mentioned already. But you would have to think. I mean, they're gonna. I mean, they're gonna gain. They're gonna garner some interest just because the money that they can throw around down there. I mean,
Hmm.
for real. I mean, so.
Yeah, you
But
pretty much. Yeah, you're gonna hear
a
some
lot.
usual suspects. You'll probably hear Lane Kiffin's name in it because it seems like anytime a job comes open now,
Yeah.
he's going to be thrown in there. You'll probably hear Deion Sanders. thrown out there.
Right. And that,
He's come out. Him and his agent have said that they're not interested in leaving Colorado anytime soon. So, but we'll see. Um, and yeah, then you got your younger guys, like you said, like Elko at Duke. Having a great season, and he's got the A&M connections. Um, and then you just wonder where Jimbo lands. That's an interesting conversation too. Does he take a year? Does some other job come open that Jimbo? Does he go to Boise, who also fired their coach?
all that. But man, do you like? I understand like when you're a coach, you love to coach, and that's what you know, and you're gonna get back into it. But man, if I'm told that I'm getting a 70 some $1 million, like I'm probably never leaving the house again to do anything that I'm
I
good.
mean, yeah, Jimbo can literally do whatever he wants now.
I mean, generational wealth. And
Mhm,
at some point, though, you would have to think that these schools eventually are going to get away from these crazy contracts. They have
mhm.
to. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, all this dead money to all these coaches. It's like, well, like, you would think all these people that are supposedly so smart would be like, this is not a good idea. Like,
Yeah. It seems like anytime, like the NBA had that problem for a while where, just they were guaranteeing money to just the weirdest guys. I remember it's probably about 7, 8 years ago now, or maybe not as long, but uh, the Pelicans just had like, 10, 12 mil a year guaranteed to guys like Etwan Moore and stuff. And uh, and it eventually corrects itself, so yeah, you wonder what will be the breaking point for these ads and colleges where they're like, all right, you know what, like we're not doing that, or maybe this is the lesson. Maybe m- with Mel Tucker and Jimbo Fisher, these big guaranteed contracts, and then well, turns out they weren't. And Jimbo's such a weird career right now, um, with his between a highly thought of offensive coordinator back in his day. Alabama tried to get him. I don't know if people remember that weird thing where Alabama was trying to get him on Saban's staff, and then, or at least it was mentioned, and then he was mentioned up for the UAB head coaching job, and then the Alabama Board of Trustees blocked it. And the rumor was they did it so that he could be the OC there and all that. And then he goes, Florida State was his first head coaching gig.
yeah,
Um, Wins a national title there, and then kind of just nosedives.
yeah.
Um, Goes to
It's just
A&M, really highly, just a lot of hype. The whole cowboy boot thing, the big contract, uh, and then just like we said, his AD said they're just got stuck in neutral there.
right. I mean, he pulled the greatest recruiting class of all time, one way or another.
Hmm. And then a lot of them left, or
Even
just
then,
didn't.
a lot of time on there. Like, it shouldn't be
Mm-hmm,
where, but it's just crazy. I mean, you know, I mean, I never understood like why they were so big on Jimbo to begin with. Only because they're going into that. A lot of people have that opinion that he's only where he's at. Well, he won it for the state and got his title. It was on the back of Jameis Winston. About
mm-hmm,
Jameis, he saw what he kind of was without him. Okay, but nothing. And then when he left, I mean, he left in a bad spot.
mm-hmm.
I mean, they went through quite the rebuild after Jimbo. um,
Yeah,
so, I understand overall. I mean, he has a legacy, and and I would just say, man, like give him a shot, but just to throw the red carpet like he was Nick Saban out there or something, it's crazy. When people throw Saban money at these folks that haven't earned even half of what Nick has done, it's crazy sometimes.
yeah. But yeah, it's so it's something to watch. This all season where A&M goes and what they're post Jimbo looks like. Is it similar to Florida State? Does it take them a few years? What is A&M ceiling really? A lot big time. The discourse for them coming from their fans and their people when they made the SEC move was twofold. It was one to get out of the league with Texas,
Right.
in which everybody kind of thought Texas, Oklahoma had an unfair share of the
Right.
money, etc. And two, it was like, well, this is going to make our program better. It's going to bring us to new heights, and that they have never won the SEC West.
Yeah.
In their time there, they've had a couple big wins, but I mean,
Yeah.
like the Johnny Manziel win over Alabama. Alabama won the SEC and the national title that year. Um, I couldn't even tell you what bowl A&M made that year. I remember the Duke Peach Bowl. That was the
That,
following season.
that was the next year, wasn't it? Though.
Yeah, that was the following
That,
season.
that was a crazy game.
It was a great game.
Yeah, back and forth. Johnny pulled it out at the end, I believe.
hmm
But yeah,
um,
but 2012, yeah, I don't. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think they played Oklahoma in
mm,
the
Cotton. Yeah, you might be right there. Um, but yeah, when they beat us a couple years ago in College Station, a big moment for them. And then I think they went on to lose like 3 games after that in regular season.
didn't they come into that game with like two or three losses?
Yeah,
Because it was
it wasn't. It was a very surprising loss.
yeah.
At the time. But yeah, it's something to watch this year where A&M goes after this. A little bit sad
Also,
that we don't have Jimbo to make fun of anymore.
also just what happens with all the people,
Yeah,
all the players. Do they stick around and see what's going to happen, or I'm sure everybody in the mob down. Hey, come on, let's go, get out of the College Station. It's about to be terrible.
yeah,
And
there's a lot of sharks in the water now. They're going to be,
all over the
uh,
place.
yeah, looking at those. A lot of big time prospects, 5 and 4 stars there. That other schools are going to be like, hey man, why don't you come on over here? We got a stable program. But
Even this nightmare for them too is, I mean, not only will Texas be in the water, but then they'll be like, hey, we're also in the SEC now, so you don't even have to leave the conference.
hmm
So
yeah,
yeah,
this and like you said, you make this move now if you're the AD to get a head start and get the best possible guy you can get. But who is that right now? That's the interesting
it'd be very
question.
fun.
Um, as let's move on. Elsewhere around the country, big matchups. Michigan and Penn State played a game. Man, I mean, it's about as Big Ten of a Big Ten game you can get. Of course, the big story coming into it: Jim Harbaugh suspended, at least for now, because of the whole sign stealing controversy, and the Michigan people hit back that it's unfairly suspended and they jumped the gun. But the investigators apparently told the Big Ten that they have evidence that Harbaugh was involved. It's just this whole thing. They're filing an appeal. The hearing's going to be this week, so it's still possible that
So good to hear him.
Harbaugh does coach on the sideline. The uh, the assistant coach, was it Shannon Moore, whatever his name is, that getting emotional after the game.
Oh, I thought you had thought Jim Harbaugh died or something.
Yeah, it was like, y'all, he got suspended for a cheating thing.
He didn't
Just
die.
as
He's
yeah,
down the.
just as
He's literally down the. He's literally a couple miles down the road at the hotel.
it's ridiculous. Michigan wins on the back of Blake Corum and their running game. JJ McCarthy threw 8 passes for them this
Yeah.
game.
What
Um,
did they came out with like 32 straight rushes?
Something like that. I don't think they didn't have an official pass attempt in the second half. The one they did was a Penn State pass interference call.
Uh,
Just ridiculous. Penn State couldn't do anything about it because they couldn't do shit on offense here. Combined,
thought
the teams
they
had
fired.
134 passing yards combined.
Yeah. You see Penn State fired the OC today.
I did not see that actually. Interesting.
Yeah, so they just fired
Uh,
the OC. But I'm like, I mean, why today? I mean, you kind of knew what the offense was this whole time. Yeah, I don't know, but
yeah, and speaking of program, stuck in neutral. I mean, Penn State's got to be at their cap with James Franklin. He's now something like 1-15 against top 5 teams in his time there, or top
And
10.
his
It's just not good. They just don't win these games.
dismal.
Yeah, it's yeah, but that was a game. So Michigan moves on. They get a top 10 win under their hat for the playoff committee. They got their big one a couple weeks in Columbus. Or no, is it? Yeah, it's in Columbus, right? Yeah.
So,
Uh, Elsewhere, Washington hosted Utah, and it was looking like Utah might do what Utah does and just bully and ruin somebody's season out there. But Washington shut them out in the second half and scored 11 points in the third quarter en route to a 7-point win. Michael Penix, good day, over 300 yards, a couple touchdowns. So they survive. They get another top 25 win on their resume and their murderous November schedule. I believe, do they get, is it Oregon State next week?
yeah, Oregon State in Corvallis.
Ooh. Tell you, if Washington does run the table, they have earned it. I
Oh,
want to hear
yeah,
no talk of them being shut
no,
out of the playoff, man.
they if they
Yeah.
if they run the table, beat Oregon a second time,
Mhm.
there's nothing else you could do. Like the
Yeah, the
Pac-12,
number one seed. Yeah.
yeah, I mean the Pac-12 is not your previous year's Pac-12. And even if even in the past, even if with when we think of the Pac-12, if a team had gone undefeated, they would have
Mhm.
made the play. It just did never happen. you
Yeah.
know, it wasn't like undefeated Pac-12 teams are getting passed over the playoffs. So
Yeah. No. Just absolutely impressive what they're doing out there. Florida State had a tougher time than I think we thought they would with Miami.
a lot of people,
They had to get a late interception to seal it. Um, the Canes fought hard. They benched Tyler Van Dyke in favor of what's the kid's name? I'm blanking on it. Uh,
oh,
anyway,
Emory
Williams.
Williams, Emory
Yeah.
Williams, who
He
had,
didn't have. Go ahead.
I was saying it wasn't the prettiest day, but he played with
Mm.
a lot of heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't great. His numbers are 8 of 23 for 175, but 2 touchdowns. Like you said, it wasn't pretty by any means. This wasn't a pretty game either, really.
At all.
Keon Coleman kind of had a big game himself. At least a couple big plays. He had that big punt return that led to a touchdown, which he caught
Yep.
in the fourth quarter, which ended up kind of sealing it. They got then Miami answered with an 85-yard touchdown pass after that, and got within 7. But then Williams gets hurt. Van Dyke comes in, throws a pick
Oh, somebody
around midfield. Florida State seals it, and they'll move on. Like you said, they run the table. And they can't afford a loss at this point.
yeah, not afford a loss, but I mean,
Yeah,
what did they in Alabama next week? Then after Swamp will be interesting, but yeah, I don't think. I mean, it's a rivalry game, so you never know. But
yeah. Like
the
you say, you never know in those rivalry games. But yeah, if they lose that, then they didn't deserve to be,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, anywhere near the playoff in the first place. Oregon, a little tighter than maybe you'd want against USC. USC still has a potent offense. Oregon did their best to hold them. They check. USC got some late touchdowns to make it look closer than it really was. Um, Oregon just kind of really just did what you should do against that USC defense. Over 550 yards of offense. Didn't turn the ball over. Ran it well, threw it well. Bo Nix had himself
four.
kind of a little Heisman statement day, over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Um,
And it's 29 and 2 on the season, 29 touchdowns, 2 picks, 3,100 yards. Like,
hmm
man, it makes you wonder, makes you think. Auburn really messed up his career.
Yeah, I mean, what he's doing in Eugene there versus what he did, and he's playing for Gus Malzahn too. Um,
I mean, he has more touchdowns this year. I mean, in his years at Auburn, he had 11, 12, and 16. So what's that? I mean, he had the last 2 years he's had
that's
what
39.
last year 29, this year 58. I mean, it's just crazy. Only two interceptions this year. I mean, it's just wild.
Yeah, it has been good bow this year. Um, but yeah, so the Oregon rolls on.
And you saw glimpses of good Bo at Auburn, but they found his consistency, and yeah, I mean, he's definitely elevated his stock as far as the NFL draft and the possible Heisman contention. I mean, if he goes out there and outduels Michael Penix in December, I mean, and Oregon has that one loss and gets revenge in the Pac-12 title. I mean, he'll definitely be in New York, but I mean that may put him over the top as far as being the Heisman winner.
Hmm. Yeah, and Oregon, making their case for the playoff too. You got to think just like we said, it could be a year where you have to win your conference to get in.
So,
Barring a few upsets or just some things happening these last couple weeks in the conference title games. But Oregon, they get Arizona State next week, easy one for them, and then Civil War, maybe the last one for a while.
yeah,
They
at least
they do. Luckily for them, they get it at home.
yeah,
But yeah, and of course that big one looming with the Huskies if both teams can get there. Um,
both have a little work. Both interesting that both have to play Oregon State
hmm
on the way there. That's, so we'll see if Oregon plays the spoiler with someone on their last hurrah the as one of the teams that gets left out of moving on to bigger and better things.
hmm
So they at
Um,
Oregon State. Well, Washington's way at Oregon State. The Apple Cup that should be simple. I
yeah,
don't know what they at all. I'm like they've completely fallen off. Six
yeah.
straight games.
The Cougars have just nosedived off a cliff. Another one-loss team that's fighting to stay in the playoff hunt. Texas built up a big lead over TCU. Then that fourth quarter got a little scary for them, a little tight.
Yeah,
20-point quarter for TCU, and Bert Auburn hit a 49-yard field goal with about around the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter that ended up being the difference in the
a
game. They
game
only won
winner.
by 3.
Yeah, that's crazy to
Yeah.
think. I mean, they got up 29-10, and I was like, man, they're really out to. I mean, TCU just kept plugging away, didn't
hmm
die. No, I thought, man, when it got to 29-10, I was like, well, that, TCU was close for a while. Then they got the couple late scores in the end of the first half. I was like, well, that was nice. But yeah, Tech's about to roll them. I'm shocked that One for All stayed around like that.
hmm
Second, the only thing, the only thing for kind of concerning if you're a Texas fan or just a coaching staff in general is that's the second week where they've had a pretty comfortable lead and got a lot more dicey than probably what it should have.
hmm Yeah, you screw around, there's going to be another team that might take
hmm
advantage of that.
You know,
As far
um,
as the standings go, there,
yeah, that
very
standings are
interesting day in the Big 12. The team that had pulled themselves into second place there and was looking like the leader to face Texas in the Big 12 title game, Oklahoma State, went to Orlando and got absolutely spanked by UCF.
yeah,
45-3. Uh, their defense, I think they had like 3 touchdowns, pick six. Big day for the Golden Knights.
but that's That's Gus for you, though.
As yeah, that was a Gus Malzahn special right there. A team looking, a team looking like you would think, coming from a smaller conference into
Yeah.
a big conference, yeah, for their first year, struggling to adapt, and then they just come out and spank Oklahoma State.
Who come
And
off a huge, just a huge win there,
mhm.
and win Bedlam, looking like they're, yeah, like you said, for sure about to face Texas. Only one loss on the thing, and I mean it's one thing to lose, but 45-3. I kept looking at that score like, what in the world is going on down there in Orlando?
Yeah, so
That's
now that creates a four-way tie for second place in the conference between Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Iowa State, and Kansas State, all at 5-2. Um,
all beating each other.
yeah, I don't know. There'll be
Because I
some
know
interesting
we're
tiebreaker
like,
scenarios.
Oklahoma's beating Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State's beating Oklahoma State, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, Kansas State
Um,
is wild.
yeah, we should mention too, probably, let's see, Kansas was in that mix last week, and then they lost to Texas Tech at home
Also, Texas Tech at home. Of course, I
after.
mean, they kind of had a little better reason in losing their quarterback like that.
Mm-hmm.
Being got hurt early there and they had to go to the, can't even think of his name. I know his dad is the GM of the Colts, but
Oh yeah. But yeah, just interesting. So
yeah,
I'm trying to look here at who's
because they
see.
came because they were down like 16-3, and like it was bad, and then they hit the comeback just to get beat up by the field goal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, yeah, they were down. I mean, they were down what 13-3, I believe.
13-0. In fact,
13-0. He scored
yeah, Tech
13
was
in the
up 13-0 heading in the fourth quarter. Then Kansas makes the comeback, and then Tech hits the field goal. Um,
series.
Pat Mahomes in the house too. Maybe they got a little spark from that. But trying to look at that, Tyler. Let's see, Kansas State. So Oklahoma State beat Kansas State in Oklahoma. Kansas State, they will play Iowa State to end the season.
Mm,
Um, so that might take care of that self there. So we know one of those teams at least going to have 3 losses. So yeah, we'll see how that plays itself out.
all right, but it's correct.
To see
It's
like,
just, man. Now,
yeah,
yeah, Oklahoma State beat Kansas State,
hmm
and then
Oklahoma beat Iowa State.
So
Iowa
Oklahoma
State,
State kind of has everybody. They beat Kansas State. They beaten. They lost
Oklahoma,
to
but
Iowa
they lost to Iowa State.
State. Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. So Oklahoma State they travel to Houston and then have BYU at home.
You
Um,
would think it'd be okay, but
yeah, you would
after
think, but it's this kind of league that they're gonna.
the
Uh,
Big 12 has been weird for a while,
hmm
and then and then Kansas State. I mean, they went house was it Baylor yesterday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
ooh, yeah,
that thing was ugly.
spanked Baylor. They were up 35-13 at halftime, and then it slowed down.
No,
Since he beat Houston, Iowa State beat BYU just for some other scores there. But yeah, it'll be a fast finish there. As far as those teams vying for that other shot. Oklahoma travels to BYU next week. State, as we mentioned, goes to Houston. K State goes to Kansas, so that's not an easy one. And
mm,
then Texas actually has to travel to Ames.
not interesting in itself.
Yeah, so that's next week. Pay attention to those Big 12 games. They might be a little. Yeah, things might get a little fun there.
especially at Iowa State in Ames at night.
Hmm.
Watch out now.
Yeah, big primetime game. That's yeah, something to look out
So,
for. Let's see. Elsewhere around the country, I forgot to mention when we are talking some Pac-12 stuff. Arizona, hot team there. Had to sweat it out, but they last second field goal to beat Colorado in Boulder. Buffalo showing a little more fight than they have last couple of weeks, but just couldn't finish get the job done in the end. Um, Rutgers and Iowa played a game where the over under was set at 27.5 points and the under won.
you said,
Iowa
what did
22 nothing win.
they down the ball once they got to the when they got that late pick, and then they downed it, and they were like at the 5 yard line.
Oh man, yeah. You just, of
It was
course, I
most Iowa
mean,
ever.
if you take the over in that game, you're a fool. That's or
But
I don't care.
that's like the lowest under the hit since like 2000.
Yeah, I saw that. Just
Just
crazy. Tulane survived a surprisingly close game with Tulsa to keep their good season going. They're vying for that New Year's Six spot. And then one of the good late night game. I don't know if you caught the end of it, but Duke and UNC
man,
double overtime game.
crazy.
A wild fourth quarter. Let's see, it was 19-14 UNC going into the fourth quarter. Then Duke puts up 22. Carolina puts up 17. Duke scores, like they trade scores real late in the fourth quarter to force overtime. I think, let's see, UNC scored. So like I said, it was 19-14. UNC headed into the fourth quarter. UNC actually scored within like the first play of the fourth quarter. They had driven down, so they took a 12-point lead. Duke scores, gets within 5. Then Duke scores again. They take a 3-point lead after a 2-point conversion. That's with 5 minutes to go. And then the last 2 minutes got crazy. UNC scores just under 2 minutes left. They go up 4. Duke goes right back down in about a minute and scores. They go with their, backup quarterback this whole game too. Remember,
Yeah,
no Riley Leonard. Um, they score with 41 seconds left.
I
UNC
thought
gets the ball, proceeds to drive right back down, kicks the field goal to tie it as time expires. Um,
got some
then
heart.
they get the touchdown in the second overtime and hold Duke. No, Duke does score the touchdown, then cannot get the 2-point conversion.
Just wild.
Um, it was a great
Duke's
game. Yeah,
tough, heartbreaking losses there for sure.
yeah, they've had tough season. Good season for Duke football program, but some tough losses. Couple luckier bounces one way or the other, and they're
Yeah,
maybe they're talking ACC title game, but
quarterback doesn't get hurt. You know,
yeah, losing Riley Leonard big for them. He was such kind of a little reminiscent of Max Dugan last year for TCU.
yeah, in
Maybe
a
not
way.
the most talented guy in the world, but good enough, and just that kind of heart of that team.
Yeah, everybody wants to run through a wall for him.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Um,
no, they may have still lost to Louisville. Who knows? But I don't think they lose
mhm.
20. But good for them though. As bad as what the offenses looked at times, just without him there, and able to put up 45 last. That was wild, but correct. Yeah, the ACC, those mid, they're kind of like the Big 12. You just week to week outside of the top few teams, and this year's just Florida State. Everything else you just don't know week to week, and sometimes you're like, "What in the world is this?" Like the ACC continue always amazes me. They just give you the weirdest stuff, and no
Yeah,
one's consistent in the ACC. Like it's just wild. Like
no, yeah, for sure. It's just a strange. It's just a wild conference. You're right. And then so you got Louisville sitting there. Obviously Florida State first. Louisville, another good win for them. They sit at
they,
6-1 now.
I thought they were gonna lose for a little bit though on Thursday night. Like they had a little tougher game than what I thought, but able to. come back there. Um, yeah, but I mean, you would have to think like Florida State doesn't make the playoffs this year. It's completely on them because they're heads and shoulders above even Louisville. Like there's no. I mean, it's just a crazy season. It could happen, but there's no reason why they should lose to Louisville if they see them in the ACC title game.
No, yeah, they're much more talented than them. Louisville, one conference game left next week at Miami, which again you would think the way they've been playing should win, but you never
Well, who
know.
knows?
Uh,
Who knows what you know? Yeah, I mean, the only thing with Miami is whenever they lose in the last decade, whenever they've had a crushing loss to Florida State, came close, they implode a little bit. But who
mhm.
knows? I mean, but I mean, even with the loss, I mean, good for Miami. I mean, after that abysmal game last week against NC State where they put up six and just
Mhm.
looked absolutely pathetic offensively. I mean, just to come out and just with that fire, just a heart. Because I mean, I thought that Florida State in Tallahassee, I thought they were gonna just house them. I mean, I thought it 63-7 bad, but
No, I was with you. I thought that, I think it was about a 14-point line. I picked Florida State in the picks column this week, and I was like, yeah, I'm not worried about this one.
yeah.
But, like you said, good fight from Miami, and they have a chance to ruin somebody's year next week. So we'll see how they respond to that. That's all I have for college. Anything else from the college game you wanted to um,
Uh,
talk
you
about next week or this week?
it's just I would probably say the biggest thing this week is it seems like the week before the rivalry weekend, it's kind of the down weekend. Of course, a lot of the SEC teams play the little guys this week, but
Hmm.
stuff always happens a week before rivalry week. On paper, it may not seem like it's going to be the best of weeks, but watch out. It's going to be some interesting things that'll happen. As crazy as this season has been, sky's the limit.
Yeah. It's definitely, like not a lot of marquee games next week. Looks like Utah, Arizona is an interesting one to watch. Yeah, struggling to find that might be the only matchup between two ranked teams. Georgia goes to Tennessee, Tennessee team who will be, a few spots lower in the rankings after that loss yesterday. And like you said, that's still a tricky one. Tennessee hasn't
Just,
nothing that I've seen has shown that they can beat Georgia, but hey, who knows?
but I will say Tennessee is a much different team at home. That's one thing. They
Mhm,
have been pretty. I mean, if there's one, I guess, downfall of their whole coaching situation, and he's got all the hype, and after last season, rightfully so, time. But they've been pretty bad on
mhm,
us. Even last year, we got housed by Georgia, housed by South Carolina. Then this year, of course, losing at Gainesville, in Tuscaloosa. And then yesterday, I'm probably the worst one. Um, but it's one. Good to see Missouri actually finally close out against a ranked team. They've
mhm.
come so close. Should have beat LSU. Hung around with Georgia. But to finally put it all together like that, I mean, that's huge for the program. But yeah, I don't think you would have to think Georgia houses them, but you never know in Knoxville. It's a weird spot sometimes, and
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's one like you said. They played well in Knoxville, especially under Heupel. The crowd will be fired up to beat Georgia one way or the other. Those two teams don't like each other. Um, it's probably one like you said. So it's only two games between ranked opponents, I believe. Um, and then you got little, we mentioned Texas at Iowa State. That's something worth at least paying attention to.
right.
Um, Of course, Washington, Oregon State. We mentioned that earlier too. That's probably your big one
Yeah.
next week. Kansas State, Kansas. So there's a good sneaky few games on there, and then like you said, there's the games where you just make sure you pay attention, and at least until it's going one way or the other. A game like Michigan at Maryland. Maryland finally got off their ended their slide yesterday.
Barely.
Barely. A
Uh,
win is a win. But
yeah.
they had to get the field goal this time.
Right.
Ran out to win in Lincoln, beat Nebraska there, but ends a 4-game losing streak for the Terps. Gets them bowl eligible, and then they host Michigan next week, and it's one of those spots. It's the week before Michigan Ohio State. Michigan's dealing with all the hardball nonsense. Maryland had the slide, so they're not really on everyone's radar anymore. Blown out by Penn State. Ohio State blew them out in the second half of that game. They had the bad loss to Illinois and Northwestern,
Yeah.
so they're not really in like on that like, oh yeah, Maryland's dangerous radar, but they could be. Um,
It could be.
um,
I mean, they're playing with house money at
hmm
Michigan in between two emotional games. I mean, big win last week. Looking for the game the following week. It's perfect opportunity for Maryland.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen.
But
Not even sure what the line is to open on that. Let me go check that. But yeah, that's one of those games that you just it's not something that's like yelling at you like, oh, upset alert, upset alert. It's just when you kind of look at the situation and everything going on, especially with the extra stuff with Michigan, and you're like, huh.
it's one of those
So,
ones you'll kind of know where it's gonna. I think it's gonna be one of those ones you'll kind of know the way it's trending in the
hmm
first 10 minutes. You know, if
hmm
Maryland comes out, hits a you know scores quickly. The crowd gets going. Watch out. But if they don't get anything really going early, I mean Michigan is gonna suffocate them with that running game.
yeah, that they're slow cook them, just run, 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 just push them around. But yeah, like you said, yeah, if it's an early game too. It's a 11 o'clock our time, so it'll be a noon start time in there in College Park. Michigan's favored by 21. But yeah, if Maryland can hit a big play or two early, if they get a big turnover, special teams play, maybe a big long touchdown play on offense, then maybe
Just
they can.
confidence
Uh,
and crowd going. It's
yeah,
like
just if they're within striking distance in the fourth quarter, just saying, don't be surprised next week.
right.
But and we'll see. Who knows? And also, if Michigan wins at 48-0 and runs for 400 yards, don't be surprised at that either.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing about it.
Uh huh.
Nothing shocks you.
Yeah. Moving on, NFL. Well, they were kind of the opposite today. I think I saw something. What was that ESPN alert I got? It featured 5 games that ended with the winning score as time expired, which was the most in a single day in NFL history.
Hey,
See, those included a very dumb loss by the Ravens to the Browns. Blew a 15-point second half lead. Browns get a big win in division because with the Bengals losing to the Texans at home on a walk-off field goal themselves, the Ravens could have really started putting distance between themselves and the rest of that division. Um, you had the ugly game early on between the Colts and Patriots. Oof. Um, you had the Vikings get up real big on the Saints, and the Saints behind Jameis Winston kind of
they did it
make a
again.
little comeback. Vikings did hold on to win that. The Vikings, man, they got some life with Josh Dobbs now.
5 games in a row now.
hmm It's a 6-4 team. Maybe a little life. The Steelers had a very Steelers win. Both their backs, they ran it all over. Warren and Najee Harris had good days. Bucks got a good win over the Titans at home. 49ers broke their losing streak, destroyed Jacksonville in Jacksonville.
That's
Uh,
on
yeah.
Jacksonville. That's just how they're such a better team on the road. They've lost
Hmm.
all they're at home this year. Only have three of them, but all three are at home, which is weird.
Yeah. Kyler Murray comes back for the Cardinals. They beat the Falcons at home.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
know how some of their fans might feel about that, but maybe it depends on what the front office. If they feel Kyler's still their guy, then they don't need that first pick in the draft. They just need a top five
weird.
pick to help build
Yeah,
their roster.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what Arizona's gonna want to do. Um,
Hmm.
I thought that they were completely in tank mode after they moved Josh, but then, Kyler came back
Hmm.
or from coming off ACL and I mean being rusty. I mean, he looked pretty good. I mean, of course, it was against the Falcons for what that's worth, but
Yeah.
I mean, that run at the end there to put him in uh, he was clutch. He was very clutch in the fourth quarter there. Decent numbers. No worst case scenario. I mean, if Arizona is moving on, I think if he continues to play like he did, someone's gonna be interested in scooping him up.
Yeah, and he's still a young enough guy to where somebody, if they wanted to move on, somebody take a flyer
For
on him for potential alone.
for sure.
Lions and Chargers played a really good one. Um, Lions, they were another one of those last second wins. Um, Man, that offense for Detroit, just Jared Goff, his career rejuvenation there. And then they
Yeah,
got just the weapons they got, St. Brown, 150, a touchdown. David Montgomery, a big 75-yard touchdown. He runs for over 100 on the day. Our boy Jameer Gibbs has almost 100 yards, couple of touchdowns himself. Um,
and
Back and forth affair there.
then Keenan Allen, old Keenan Allen,
11 catches, buck 75, two touchdowns.
looked like he was
Um,
Keenan Allen.
yeah, Quentin Johnson, TCU star last year, got his first career NFL touchdown. On a crazy sequence, that one. Chargers
Yeah,
got down, got to fourth and goal for the one, got stood up by the lines, and there was a penalty. Then they got down and ended up with fourth and goal from about the half-yard line again. And the cool play design that freed up Quentin in the back of the end zone. But yeah, it was a great game
oh,
for team people that love offense and fantasy scoring there. And then you see your Cowboys beat the hell out of the Giants again.
yeah.
Speaking of big days, Dak, big day.
Okay, and CeeDee Lamb, 3 straight weeks with over 150 yards receiving.
Mm, yep,
Really,
Brandon Cooks had a big day for y'all.
but I guess the biggest thing for us continues to be, because our show before the game last week ended, can't beat the top teams still.
Hmm.
Should be Philly. Had all the
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah, they had all the opportunities. Played a better game against them than they have recently, but
but
yeah, a good win for them. Moves them to 6-3. Seahawks, they were another one of those last second winners at 6-3. Geno Smith had a big day himself.
yeah, that's
Uh,
and it's not
yeah,
going to be for air for the non-division win.
no, yeah. And then not a noteworthy game really, except for the Bears beating the Panthers on Thursday night. Really, the Bears have the Panthers first round draft pick, so the Bears are really looking like they can get like two of the top three picks or something.
That'll be interesting. Just see what do they
Mhm. Yeah, is that do they? Again, that's another. What does the front office believe in the quarterback? If they believe Justin Fields can do it, then what do you do? Do you get yourself? I don't know. I've been really paying too much attention to big draft prospects as far as like off, but is there an offensive tackle that's there? I know Marvin Harrison Jr. could be on the board that early. Maybe you want to snatch him up for a weapon. Do
right?
you trade down and just get a boatload of picks and
Boatload of picks,
players? Yeah, to
players.
really rebuild that roster.
Exactly. I mean, Yeah, I mean, either one of your picks. I mean, if you were to get rid of one of them, I mean, yeah, you're getting a plethora of stuff back because someone's gonna want to move up for a quarterback. 'Cause, I
Hmm.
mean, people are moving crazy last year, and it was a weak quarterback class. I mean, this year is gonna be crazy. Just all the people, all the names out there this year. I
Hmm. Yeah.
mean,
Um, but yeah, and let's see. So the Bills play tomorrow night. They host the Broncos. You would think they should win, which would move them to
oh,
6-4, and I believe into the seventh spot in the AFC, which is right now currently owned by the Houston Texans. Believe it or not,
it's
just
crazy.
insane. The Ravens lost today means I think Kansas City is in right now the driver's seat for the first. They were off this week. Should
Hmm.
be a fun. We're kind of getting to that stretch run here in the NFL.
Right, trying
Teams
to get
got
there.
about 7-8 games left for the most part.
Yeah, so yeah,
You
the
look over at
rest
the
of November's
NFC, the
crazy.
Philly, not a stranglehold on that top seed, but
Um,
you know, Detroit's right there behind them. That's crazy. San Fran with their win today hopped back into first place in the NFC West, so they would be three. The Saints, despite their loss, still first place in the NFC South. They would be four. Then you got Seattle, your Cowboys, and the Vikings right now are the seventh seed. The
yeah,
Bucks are right there behind them, and then you got a plethora of six lost teams: the Commanders, Falcons, Packers, and Rams that all kind of vying for that spot. So it'll be an interesting stretch run.
yeah, it's not. It'll be very interesting because that 6th, 7th, like that's gonna be tight. It's gonna be a tight ending for a lot of teams there.
And especially, even with the teams that are pretty sure to make the playoffs and your seeding right now, I called the Ravens a dumb loss, and it is. And yeah, the Browns are a good team, really good defense. They made some defensive plays, had a big pick six late in the game that really
Yeah,
changed the course of that. But you can't lose that game. You got to turn around. Now they get the Bengals on Thursday. It is a home game, but
and so is today.
yeah, it's I think the Ravens actually have the hardest remaining schedule left. They go Bengals on Thursday. Then they have Sunday night football the next week at the Chargers, which, that the road game designation when you're playing the Chargers doesn't matter. They don't have a fan base in LA.
No, they better have one in San Diego.
Yeah, that's true. At least they had one, but it wasn't much,
Right.
but it's better than LA. And then
That's just people. Yeah, you like it was like every week in a Chargers game. It's like, dude, like
mhm.
the other team out out fans them every time. It's like, dude, everybody
Yeah,
out fans the Chargers. It's sad.
yeah, weird scheduling note for the Ravens. Their four of their next five games are all prime time. They get like I said, they get the Thursday night game this week, Cincinnati. Then they
Hmm.
go Sunday night against the Chargers. Fly back across the country to play the other LA team at home. That's just a noon regular game. Then another Sunday night game in Jacksonville, a team that's
And
historically
Jacksonville,
given the Ravens trouble. And then
Chris,
Christmas Monday, Monday night football game in San
against
Francisco.
San
Um,
Fran, thanks.
and then their last two games are home, but it's the Dolphins and then the Steelers.
And who
Um,
knows what's going on at that point as far as
yeah,
what people are playing for then.
yeah, because that you look at that AFC North, the Ravens in first place at 7-3, then right behind them Pittsburgh and Cleveland are 6-3, Cincy's five
Yeah,
and four. Like I said, that's a bad loss today because you could be 8-2
yeah,
with
two
Pittsburgh
games.
behind you, and then Cleveland would have, they'd be 5-4 as well, and you would have two wins over them instead of just the split. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
huh,
so it should be fun finish here in the NFL as
yeah,
we get to it. Right now, who's playing the Raiders and Jets playing a Sunday
yeah.
night game that nobody cares about.
Not thrilled.
Um, yeah.
9-6 right now.
But yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think. All right, elsewhere in the, I think probably should do it for NFL. I don't think there's anything else really
Not
of
too much.
note going on. Um, Elsewhere in the sports world, let's see. Tyrese Maxey dropped 50 today.
I do. Big day.
Yeah, dedicated that to a teammate, Kelly Oubre, who got hit by a car this week.
Yeah, that's correct.
Seems to be doing okay. So it's good news there. Your Mavs beat my Pelicans today. Kyrie had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Um, Pelicans doing a lot of injury trouble right now. What's new? Uh, just trying to think of what else. Anything happened this week in the sports world? Unfortunate career end for Megan Rapinoe yesterday,
Oh,
playing in an NWSL title game. Goes off after what,
boy,
like 6 minutes with an injury
boy,
in a
probably
title game and
Achilles.
the final game of her career. That's a tough way for such a great player. Um,
And just the World Cup ending, and then possibly a torn Achilles there.
hmm
Jeez, that's a tough way to go out.
Yeah. Baseball, of course, we mentioned the big thing will be, where does Shohei Otani end up? But the big buzz this week is that Juan Soto could possibly be traded. So that would be two absolutely huge uh,
Yeah,
guys on the move
that'd be crazy
this offseason. That's something to watch out for.
for sure.
I think I read somewhere too. Somebody was interviewing Ronald Acuna, and they asked him if he can get anybody in the league to add to their team. Who would it be? And he said Juan Soto. Which, well, yeah, no shit. But
Who doesn't want one soda?
yeah, I think some Braves fans after that kind of like had stars in their eyes, like, oh my god, how do we make that happen? And you don't do that via trade without giving up too much of your
Yeah,
core. So
you're giving up a plethora of players to get one
yeah,
soda.
and I don't think they have the farm system anymore because all those guys are on the majors
Right.
league roster now. So uh, yeah. And beside pitching, starting pitching, that's where we need to go, Braves. Um, but yeah, anything else from the sports world you wanted to touch on?
Uh, no, well, I mean, it's early in the season, but I like Alabama's offense the first two games. I will say that in
Oh
basketball
yeah,
season.
yeah. Alabama basketball kicked off this week.
You know, the two big transfers looked really good offensively there. Strada had a huge game the other night, but haven't played anybody yet. It's about to get a little real coming up there, especially in December for Alabama. But
hmm
you know, I like what I saw there, but yeah, it's still early and everybody's still gelling there. So I mean, we didn't play anybody yet, but the offense looks pretty electric there for what it's worth in November.
I know, yeah. Strada looks the real deal, and then a nice little pick and roll game going with Sears and Nelson so far.
Yeah, Nelson has definitely lived up to the hype as well. I mean, that was a huge move. Get him from what, North Dakota State, I believe. But
hmm
I mean, Nelson and Estrada, that's quite the duo there. So we'll see how it all
Yeah, 24
plays
from
out.
Nelson the first game against Morehead State, 27 from Estrada against the Sycamores Indiana State on Friday. Um, like I said, a couple more. South Alabama, then Mercer. Then it gets real after Thanksgiving. They get Ohio State, Clemson. They'll play Purdue in December, Creighton, Arizona. That stretch. That's three straight
Huh,
games. 11-day stretch. You get
That's
Purdue at Creighton and then Arizona.
and Arizona's coming off a big win
Mhm.
on Friday night over Duke. That
Yep,
was
in Cameron Indoor.
yeah, that doesn't happen too much that
Mm-mm.
that they, especially out of conference games, that they lose that. But I was gonna say, Arizona, crazy. They got the dude from San Diego State.
Mm.
Uh, just coming off a national title game, Keyshawn Johnson. Uh, that's a huge pickup right there. I mean, heck of a defensive player, can put up some points. And Arizona, man, they. I mean, it's very early, but they could definitely be a heck of a heck of a team this year.
Yeah, that's Yeah, it's definitely a team to watch. A great program there. In their last season in the Pac-12 before they moved to the Big 12, and the Big 12 becomes probably the best basketball conference in the country.
Dude, that the whole Big 12 is, I
Yeah.
mean, crazy. I mean, just the additions already. I mean, just adding Houston. I mean, that's huge in
Hmm.
itself. And then adding Arizona. Yeah, Arizona State's somewhat decent. Like, yeah, that's gonna be a crazy basketball league.
Hmm. Adding Utah, a program
Yeah,
that has had some
that's had
success in the
some
past. Yeah.
decent.
But yeah, yeah. Again, just looking to see if there's anything else we needed to touch on here. I think that's probably pretty good. We got
Yeah,
some, NBA's just like early season NBA stuff rolling along. We mentioned all the cool uniforms and weird court designs for the in-season tournament. NHL's going, but neither of us are big enough fans to know what we're talking about, so we'll stay out of
right,
that.
right.
Yeah. We talked about next week in college, next week in the pros. We mentioned that Cincy Baltimore game on Thursday. It's a big one.
It's good to
Pittsburgh
see
travels to
Thursday.
Cleveland for a big AFC North battle.
Yeah,
Monday night, you got the Eagles go to the Chiefs next Monday, so
that'll
that'll
be
be a
that should be
yeah,
a fun one.
yeah, it'll be a highly hyped game going on.
Yeah,
Let's see. Buffalo gets a chance at revenge on the Jets. It pretty much looks like the big, not too much going on next week. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for us. Greg, what's been done up real good for you this week?
done up for me real good this week. Just I'd probably say. I mean, it wasn't anything too crazy, just overall, just a solid week. We've had a lot of changes at work, so I mean, it was a weird work week last week. They had to downsize a little bit just with the economies at in certain areas, so it's kind of weird. But we had a lot more success than what we've had as of late. So that was probably one of my biggest things. There's been a lot of uncertainty in the trucking world recently, which is the industry I work in. So it's been kind of a crazy couple of months, but it seems to be turning around. So that's probably my biggest thing this week. How about you?
Um, I guess I'll say, like you said, nothing big, exciting. We're just down in New Orleans for a couple days. It's always good to get into a city that we love and hold close to our hearts so much. So, yeah, that's good. Good to see some old friends and etc. Um, but that will do it for us this week. Thanks once again for listening, folks. As always, subscribe, give us good ratings, tell your friends about us, tell your rich friends about us. Check out all of the podcasts on the Alabama Take family of podcasts. Check out the alabamatake.com for more than just podcasts. Sometimes we write things over there too. And yeah, enjoy it out there, folks. Keep it done up real good yourselves. Greg, take it easy, bud.
You too, buddy.